The strange convenience store. The space station was old and dirty, floating in the middle of nowhere. The lights flickered, and the metal walls were covered in scratches and strange alien symbols. The air smelled like rust and oil. Ethan Cross stepped off his small spaceship, stretching his sore muscles. He had been traveling for days and was tired, thirsty, and frustrated. His ship's water supply was almost empty, and his throat was dry like sand. All he needed was a bottle of water, just a simple drink. The marketplace was quiet. Strange alien creatures walked around, their eyes glowing in the dim lights. Some were tall and thin, with too many arms. Others were short and covered in scales. No one spoke. The only sound was the humming of machines and the occasional hiss of steam escaping from broken pipes. Ethan spotted a small convenience store at the corner of the station. Its neon sign flickered in an alien language, but below it, there were two words in broken English. Shop open. With a sigh, Ethan stepped inside. The alien cashier. The store was tiny and cluttered. Shelves were packed with strange products. Glowing cans, slimy meat, and bottles filled with dark liquid. The walls were covered in old posters, their images faded. At the counter stood the cashier, a tall, insect-like alien with 4 glowing eyes and long, sharp fingers. Its exoskeleton shimmered under the dim light. It didn't blink, just stared at Ethan with an unsettling smile. Ethan walked up to the counter. "Water," he said. His voice was hoarse from thirst. "Just a bottle of water." The cashier tilted its head, clicking its mandibles. "Human, wants water." Its voice was raspy, like metal scraping against metal. Ethan nodded. "Yeah. How much?" The alien didn't answer. Instead, it reached under the counter and pulled out a small glass vial. The liquid inside glowed softly, shifting colors like liquid gold. It pushed the vial toward Ethan and whispered, "Take this instead." Ethan frowned. "No, I just need water. Nothing else." The alien didn't move. Its eyes darkened, and its voice became lower. "Water will not help you. This will." A sudden warning. Ethan stared at the vial. Something about it felt wrong. The glow pulsed, almost like it was alive. "What is it?" he asked. The cashier leaned closer. "It is essential." Ethan shook his head. "Look, I don't have time for weird alien drinks. Just give me water." The alien's fingers twitched. It looked around the store nervously, as if checking for something or someone. Then, in a quick motion, it shoved the vial into Ethan's hands. "Take it," the alien hissed. "Now go. Run." Ethan's heart skipped a beat. "What?" "Go." The alien's voice was suddenly filled with fear. "They are coming." Before Ethan could react, a loud alarm rang through the station. "BEEP! BEP! BEP!" Outside, heavy footsteps echoed. The ground shook as something large approached. Ethan turned toward the door. Through the dusty glass, he saw a group of heavily armored aliens marching straight toward the store. Their weapons glowed with energy, and their eyes were locked onto him. "The chase begins." Ethan's instincts screamed. "Run." He shoved the vial into his jacket pocket and turned back to the cashier. "What the hell is this? Who are they?" The alien didn't answer. Instead, it pressed a button under the counter. The back door slammed open, revealing a dark alley. "Go, human," the cashier rasped. "Before it's too late." Ethan didn't wait. He dashed through the back door, into the alley. The air was thick with smoke and the smell of burning metal. His boots pounded against the ground as he ran, heart racing. Behind him, the armored aliens crashed into the store. "Where is the human?" One of them growled, its deep voice vibrating through the walls. The cashier's voice trembled. I don't know." A loud bang, the sound of something heavy hitting flesh. Ethan glanced back, just for a second. Through the narrow gap in the door, he saw the cashier lying on the floor, unmoving. His stomach twisted. The aliens turned toward the back door, their glowing eyes locked onto him. He is it, one of them roared. The chase was on. The unwanted gift. Ethan ran. His boots pounded against the cold metal floor of the space station's back alleys, his breath coming in sharp, ragged gasps. Behind him, the heavy footsteps of the armored aliens thundered through the narrow passage, growing closer with each passing second. His mind was racing just as fast as his legs. What the hell is this vial? Why did the cashier tell me to run? And why are these guys so desperate to get it? He clutched the glowing vial tightly in his pocket as he sprinted through the dimly lit corridors, past flickering neon signs and rusted doors. The walls were damp, covered in condensation, and the smell of oil and something rotten filled the air. A few aliens stood in the alley, their faces hidden under cloaks, their glowing eyes watching as Ethan tore past them. Some of them muttered in hushed voices, stepping back into the shadows as if they knew what was happening, but wanted nothing to do with it. Then, a deep robotic voice boomed from behind him. "Stop the human. He has he ate he essence." Ethan's stomach twisted. Essence? What the hell does that mean? He didn't have time to think. From the corner of his eye, he saw one of the cloaked aliens move suddenly, sticking out a long, clawed foot, trying to trip him. Too late. Ethan's foot caught the obstacle, and before he could react, he was falling forward, hard. Damn! Pain exploded through his body as he hit the cold floor. The impact rattled his bones, and for a moment, the world blurred. His fingers instinctively tightened around the vial in his pocket as he groaned and tried to push himself up. But his body refused to move fast enough. From behind, heavy boots approached. The air around him hummed with energy, and he felt the presence of something huge and powerful standing over him. Slowly, Ethan turned his head. A towering alien in black and silver armor stood above him, its helmet shaped like a monstrous skull, two glowing red eyes peering down at him. Its hands gripped a long energy staff, crackling with blue lightning. It raised the weapon. "Return the essence, human!" The alien growled, its deep voice vibrating in the air. Ethan braced himself for an attack. Then, the vial pulsed. A strange, warm sensation spread through his fingers. The glow from the liquid inside grew brighter, shifting colors rapidly, from gold to deep blue, then to an unnatural, almost blinding white. The armored alien hesitated. Ethan felt something stir inside him. A whisper, faint yet familiar, echoed in the back of his mind. "Do not let them take me." His breath caught in his throat. The voice came from the vial. Before he could question it, his body suddenly reacted on its own. A surge of energy rushed through his veins, and in a split second, he moved faster than he ever had before. His hand slammed against the ground, and with an unnatural burst of strength, he flipped backward just as the alien's energy staff struck the ground where he had been lying. Boom! The impact sent a shockwave rippling through the alley, metal crates flying in every direction. Sparks rained down from broken power cables. Ethan landed on his feet, but something was different. His heart pounded like a war drum, his muscles tensed like coiled springs. His senses were sharper. He could hear the faintest footsteps behind him, feel the warmth of nearby power sources, even smell the distinct metallic scent of the armored alien's weapon. The vial had done something to him. He didn't have time to think about it. The armored alien recovered fast. It let out a furious roar, raising its weapon for another strike. Ethan moved. Faster than before, he dove to the side, rolling behind a stack of crates. The energy staff crashed down, cutting through the metal like butter. The alien snarled in frustration. "The ESCNC has awakened." The others, the squad of armored pursuers, arrived at the alley's entrance, weapons raised. Ethan was outnumbered. He needed a way out. Then, a voice, sharp and urgent, came from above him. "Up here, human." Ethan's gaze shot upward. A hooded figure stood on a rusted fire escape, looking down at him. Their face was hidden in shadow, but their glowing yellow eyes burned with intensity. "Come if you want to live," the figure said. Ethan didn't hesitate. With his newly heightened reflexes, he leaped, grabbing the edge of the fire escape and pulling himself up in one fluid motion. The mysterious figure gave him a quick nod before turning and sprinting across the narrow bridge leading to another sector of the station. Ethan followed. Behind them, the armored aliens roared in frustration. "Do never let them escape." The escape and the truth. Ethan ran after the hooded figure, weaving through the maze-like upper levels of the space station. They passed through abandoned rooms, maintenance tunnels, and decaying corridors filled with flickering lights. Finally, after several minutes of running, they reached a small, hidden chamber. The figure slammed the door shut behind them, locking it. For the first time, Ethan got a good look at his rescuer. The hooded figure wasn't human. They pulled back their hood, revealing dark purple skin, high cheekbones, and two small horns curving backward from their forehead. "You have no idea what you're holding, do you?" the alien asked, voice calm but urgent. Ethan took out the vial. The glow was now softer, pulsing like a slow heartbeat. "No," he admitted, still catching his breath. "But I think it just saved my life." The alien nodded. "It will do more than that." They stepped forward, their gaze serious. "The essence," they said, "is not just a drink. It is a piece of something far greater." Ethan frowned. "Greater? Like what?" The alien's eyes darkened. "A lost species. A forgotten power. And if those armored bastards catch you..." They paused. "You won't just die, human. You'll become something far worse." Ethan's fingers tightened around the vial. For the first time, he realized. This wasn't just about water anymore. This was something much, much bigger. The chase begins. The hidden chamber was dimly lit, filled with stacks of old crates and broken equipment. The air smelled of dust and burnt wires, and the only sound was Ethan's heavy breathing as he tried to process what had just happened. The alien who had rescued him stood in front of him, arms crossed. Their dark purple skin shimmered faintly under the dim lights, and their glowing yellow eyes were filled with something Ethan couldn't quite place. Concern. Fear. Maybe both. "You should not be alive," the alien finally said. Ethan raised an eyebrow, still holding the small glowing vial. "Gee, thanks. That's real comforting." The alien didn't laugh. "You don't understand, human. The essence, what you drank, is not just a liquid. It's a fragment of something ancient. Something that should not exist anymore." Ethan glanced down at the vial, its glow pulsing in a slow rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. He swallowed hard. "I only took a tiny drop," he muttered. "And now these armored freaks are trying to kill me for it." The alien's expression darkened. "Not kill. Erase." Ethan frowned. "What does that mean?" Before the alien could answer, boom! The door exploded in a bright flash of blue energy. The shockwave sent Ethan flying backward, crashing into a pile of crates. Sparks flew as pieces of metal and debris scattered across the chamber. Through the smoke, they came. The armored aliens, tall, hulking figures in black and silver exosuits, their helmets shaped like monstrous skulls. Their eyes glowed red, weapons charged with deadly energy. The lead soldier stepped forward, pointing directly at Ethan. "The human HASBENTANTED." The others raised their weapons. "Purge him." Ethan's heart slammed against his ribs. He tried to push himself up, but his limbs felt heavy. The vial in his pocket pulsed faster, as if reacting to danger. The alien beside him grabbed his arm. "Move." Before Ethan could respond, the alien threw something, a small circular device that detonated in a burst of white smoke. Boom! The smoke blinded the soldiers for a second, just enough time for Ethan and his rescuer to run. Running for his life, Ethan sprinted down the corridor, his mind racing just as fast as his legs. His body still felt weird, stronger, faster, like his muscles were reacting before he even thought about moving. Behind him, the sound of heavy footsteps and electronic growls echoed through the station. The alien led him through a series of twists and turns, navigating the station like they had done this before. Ethan barely kept up, his heart hammering in his chest. "Who the hell are these guys?" he shouted. His rescuer didn't turn back. "They are called the Void Reapers," they said between breaths. "They work for an ancient order, the Keepers of the Lost." Ethan nearly tripped over a loose panel. "That's a hell of a name." The alien glanced at him. "They erase history, human. They hunt anything that was not meant to survive." Ethan's stomach twisted. "And now they want to erase me. Because you drank the essence." The words hit him like a punch to the gut. This wasn't just about the vial anymore. Whatever was inside it had changed him. And now, these Void Reapers wanted him gone. They rounded another corner and stopped dead in their tracks. A dead end. A massive rusted metal door blocked their path. The control panel beside it was destroyed, sparks flying from melted wires. Ethan turned, his breath ragged. "We're trapped." The Void Reapers' footsteps grew louder. The red glow of their helmets shone through the smoke as they marched closer, their weapons humming with energy. "ESNC must not fail into unworthy hands." Ethan gritted his teeth. He was done running. The first fight. The Void Reapers opened fire. Bright blue energy bolts tore through the air, slamming into the walls around them. Sparks rained down as pipes burst open, spilling steam into the corridor. Ethan didn't think. He moved. His body reacted before his brain could even process the danger. He ducked, rolled forward, and before he even knew what he was doing, he was behind the nearest Void Reaper. Faster, stronger, sharper. His hand moved instinctively. He grabbed the soldier's weapon, twisted it. Crack! The energy rifle was wrenched from the alien's grip. In the same fluid motion, Ethan slammed his elbow into the soldier's helmet. The metal dented inward, and the Reaper collapsed. The other soldiers hesitated. "What?" Ethan whispered, staring at his own hands. His rescuer didn't hesitate. They grabbed Ethan's shoulder. "We need to go. Now." "But." "Now." The alien pulled something from their belt, a small flickering device, and slammed it against the broken control panel. The massive door lurched to life. With a screech of grinding metal, it slowly began to open. More Void Reapers charged forward. Ethan and his rescuer dove through the gap just as the door slammed shut behind them. Bam! Silence. Ethan collapsed against the wall, gasping for breath. His hands were still shaking, his body still buzzing with unnatural energy. The alien knelt beside him, studying him carefully. "You're changing," they said quietly. Ethan swallowed hard. "Yeah, I noticed." The alien's expression was grim. "If we don't stop it, you won't be human for much longer." Ethan's blood ran cold. For the first time since all of this started, he truly realized. He wasn't just running for his life anymore. He was running from whatever he was becoming. The truth about essential. Ethan sat against the cold metal wall, his breath coming in sharp, uneven gasps. His entire body buzzed with energy, an unnatural force coursing through his veins. The muscles in his arms felt like they were on fire, but it wasn't pain. It was something else. Something powerful. Something dangerous. His hands were still trembling as he stared down at them. Just minutes ago, he had taken down an armored Void Reaper with his bare hands. That should have been impossible. Across from him, his alien rescuer watched him closely. Their yellow eyes flickered with caution, maybe even fear. "You feel it, don't you?" they finally said. Ethan swallowed hard. "Yeah." The alien pulled back their hood, revealing their dark purple skin and the two small, curved horns protruding from their forehead. "You're changing, human, and if we don't do something soon, you won't be able to stop it." Ethan clenched his fists. "Stop what?" The alien's voice lowered. "The essence inside you. It's waking up." Ethan's stomach twisted. He pulled the small glowing vial from his pocket and held it up. The liquid inside pulsed like a heartbeat, shifting between gold, blue, and a deep, almost unsettling white. "You keep calling it the essence," Ethan muttered. "What the hell is it?" The alien sighed. "The real question, human, is, what was it before?" Ethan frowned. "Before?" The alien leaned closer, their voice barely above a whisper. "That liquid in your hands. It's not just some rare alien drink. It's the last remnant of an extinct species, a species that was erased from the universe because it was too powerful." Ethan felt his blood turn to ice. "You're telling me I just drank the DNA of some ancient aliens?" The alien nodded. "Not just any aliens. The Celestials. They were gods once, beings that could shape reality with their minds, control time, matter, energy. But they were hunted down, exterminated, and erased from history by the keepers of the lost. The same people chasing you now." Ethan shook his head in disbelief. "And now I have their DNA inside me." The alien exhaled sharply. "Not just inside you. You've activated it. That's why you moved so fast. Why you hit so hard. It's only a drop now, but soon it will take over." Ethan's mind spun. This wasn't just about running anymore. He was becoming something else. And the people hunting him, they knew. The danger of awakening. Ethan leaned his head back against the wall, staring at the rusted ceiling of the abandoned hideout. His heart was still racing. "So what happens if I keep changing?" he asked quietly. The alien hesitated. "The essence inside you. It doesn't just give you power. It has a mind of its own." Ethan stiffened. "You're saying I'll lose control?" "Not just control," the alien said, their voice grim. "You'll lose yourself." Ethan clenched his jaw. He didn't like the sound of that. "How do we stop it?" he asked. The alien hesitated. "There is a way, but it won't be easy." Ethan let out a dry laugh. "Yeah, I figured." The alien reached into their coat and pulled out a small circular device. A holographic map flickered to life, showing a section of the space station. "There's a place, deep within the station's core. A hidden chamber that the keepers don't want anyone to find. It was built long ago, during the war against the Celestials. If there's anything that can stabilize the essence inside you, it will be there." Ethan narrowed his eyes. "And let me guess, the keepers are guarding it." The alien nodded. Ethan sighed. "Great. Sounds like a suicide mission." The alien smiled slightly. "Then it's a good thing you're not human anymore." Breaking into the core. The plan was simple. Get to the core, avoid the Void Reapers, and find whatever was hidden there. The execution, not so simple. Ethan and his rescuer moved through the dark, narrow corridors of the station, avoiding security patrols and keeping to the shadows. The deeper they went, the colder the air became. The walls here were different, older, covered in ancient carvings. Ethan couldn't read the alien symbols, but he could feel them. It was like they were whispering to him, reaching into his mind. The alien noticed his reaction. "The essence is reacting to the core's energy. We're getting close." Ethan shook his head, trying to ignore the strange sensation creeping through his thoughts. They reached a massive sealed door at the end of the corridor. It was covered in glowing symbols, pulsing in a slow rhythm. The alien reached out, placing their hand on the door. The symbols flickered. The air hummed with unseen energy. Then, boom! A loud explosion rocked the station. Ethan and the alien spun around just in time to see the corridor behind them erupt in fire and smoke. The Void Reapers had found them. Through the smoke, their red eyes burned like fire. Their leader stepped forward, his black and silver armor gleaming under the dim light. His voice was cold, emotionless. ESNC cannot be allowed to survive. The other soldiers raised their weapons. Ethan's hands clenched into fists. The energy inside him roared to life. His rescuer looked at him. "You're not ready for this." Ethan exhaled slowly. "I don't think I have a choice." The Void Reapers charged. Ethan moved. Faster than before. Faster than any human should be able to move. He met the first soldier head-on, dodging energy blasts, twisting around their attacks like he had done it 1,000 times before. His fist connected with the Reaper's armor and sent the massive alien flying. He barely had time to process it before the next one attacked. He ducked, spun, grabbed a rifle midair, and turned it back on its owner. One shot. The Void Reaper collapsed. His rescuer watched in stunned silence. "You're evolving." Ethan wiped blood from his lip. "Yeah, I noticed." The station shook violently as another explosion rang out. The keepers were closing in. The alien turned to the door. "We don't have time." Ethan took a deep breath, his entire body vibrating with power. He stepped forward and, without thinking, placed his hand against the ancient symbols. The glowing symbols flared to life. The door rumbled, and then it opened. Beyond it lay a chamber filled with light, and at its center, something ancient waited. Ethan took a step forward, his breath caught in his throat. Somewhere deep inside him, a voice whispered, "Welcome, chosen one. Evolution or death." The chamber beyond the door was massive, far larger than anything Ethan had expected. It was a cathedral of ancient technology, with towering metallic pillars stretching toward a sky that didn't exist. The walls pulsed with faint blue light, like veins carrying energy through the very bones of the space station. At the center of the room stood a structure unlike anything Ethan had ever seen. A floating monolith, dark and shimmering, covered in the same glowing symbols that had responded to his touch. The air around it crackled, charged with an invisible force. It called to him, not with words, but with something deeper, something in his very cells. Ethan could feel it inside him, like the essence within him was waking up, recognizing its origin. His rescuer, who had led him this far, stood frozen, staring at the monolith with a mixture of awe and fear. "This is it," they whispered. "The core of the lost." Ethan clenched his fists, trying to suppress the tingling sensation coursing through his veins. His skin felt hot, his mind too sharp, like he was on the edge of becoming something else. "What do I do?" he asked, his voice barely steady. The alien looked at him. "You stabilize it, before it stabilizes you." Ethan didn't like the sound of that. The choice before him. He took slow, careful steps toward the floating monolith. As he moved closer, the whispers in his head grew louder. "You have awakened. You are not human anymore. You are the first in 1,000 lifetimes." The voices weren't hostile. They were expectant. The monolith pulsed, and the essence inside Ethan reacted. His vision flashed, and suddenly, he saw. Not just the room, not just the space station. He saw history itself. A great war, long before human existence. The Celestials, beings of pure energy, capable of bending reality itself, had ruled the stars. Their knowledge was limitless, their power unmatched. Until something came for them. The keepers of the lost, those who now hunted him, had erased them, purged their existence from the universe, leaving only fragments, pieces of essence, locked away and hidden. And now, that last fragment was inside him. Ethan's breath caught as he was yanked back into reality. He stumbled, his body burning, his head pounding with the weight of ancient memories. His rescuer caught his arm. "Ethan." He looked at them, his vision blurring. Before he could speak, the ground shook. The chamber doors exploded open, and the Void Reapers arrived. The final battle begins. They poured in, their glowing red eyes locking onto Ethan with deadly precision. Their leader stepped forward, the same armored behemoth who had chased him before. "You have come too far, human," the Void Reaper growled. "The essence must be destroyed." Ethan felt it, the pulsing, growing power inside him. He wasn't just a human anymore. He was something more, and they knew it. "You don't understand what you're doing," his rescuer said, stepping forward. "If he doesn't stabilize, he'll." The Void Reaper raised a hand, and in an instant, the other soldiers opened fire. Ethan moved, faster than before, faster than should have been possible. One moment, he was standing still. The next, he was a blur of motion, weaving between energy blasts, his reflexes sharper than any human's. He reached the first soldier and tore the weapon from their grip, spinning it around in one smooth motion, and firing back. The energy bolt struck the Reaper square in the chest, sending them flying. The others hesitated. "Impossible," one of them muttered. Ethan exhaled. His fingers tingled. His body hummed with power. This was who he was now. The breaking point. But even with his newfound power, Ethan could feel it. He was losing himself. Each move he made, each second that passed, the essence inside him was taking more control. His mind was stretching, his thoughts becoming too fast, too vast. He wasn't just seeing the battle. He was predicting it, knowing what would happen before it did. And it scared him. "Ethan," his rescuer shouted. The Void Reaper leader lunged at him, swinging a massive energy blade. Ethan caught it. With one hand. The Void Reaper's eyes widened. "You?" Ethan tightened his grip and shattered the blade in his hands. The essence was taking over. His rescuer rushed toward him. "You have to stabilize it. Now." Ethan turned toward the monolith. It pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. There was only one way to stop this. He had to finish what had been started. He took a step toward the monolith. The Void Reapers charged at him all at once. Ethan reached out. His fingers touched the surface of the monolith. Rebirth or destruction. For a second, nothing happened. Then, a blinding pulse of white energy erupted from the monolith, engulfing the entire chamber. Everything froze. The Void Reapers, his rescuer, even Ethan himself, locked in place as the raw power of the essence surged outward. Ethan felt himself breaking apart, not physically, but mentally. His memories, his thoughts, his very identity. The essence was rewriting it all. "You are no longer Ethan Cross. You are something new. You are the last Celestial." He gasped, trying to hold on to himself. "No, I won't become." Darkness, a heartbeat. Then, light. The new beginning. When Ethan opened his eyes, he was no longer the same. The chamber was silent. The Void Reapers were gone, vanished. His rescuer stood before him, staring. "Ethan." He looked down at his hands. They were still his hands, but they weren't. Energy pulsed beneath his skin, flowing through his veins like living fire. He wasn't just human anymore. He wasn't just celestial either. He was both. A new being, a new existence, and he could feel it. The universe itself, stretching before him, filled with endless possibilities. His rescuer took a hesitant step forward. "Are you still you?" Ethan looked at them. A small smile touched his lips. "Yeah," he said. "I think so." Then, behind them, the chamber shuddered. Something had changed. Something new had begun. And Ethan, he had only just awakened. The final battle. The chamber was silent, but the air felt alive, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. Ethan stood at the center, his body humming with power beyond understanding. He was no longer just a man, nor was he fully celestial. He was something new, something that had never existed before. His rescuers stared at him, eyes wide with shock. "You're different," they whispered. Ethan flexed his fingers. Energy crackled beneath his skin, flowing like liquid fire. He could feel the space around him, not just see it, but sense every molecule, every vibration, every shift in time. "Yeah," he said, his voice deeper, stronger. "I am." But before he could fully grasp what that meant, boom! The chamber shook violently, and an explosion ripped through the entrance. The walls cracked, sending shockwaves through the ancient metal structure. And then they came. The Void Reapers, in numbers greater than before, pouring in like a flood of living shadows. Their red eyes burned with fury, their weapons humming with deadly energy. And at the center of them all, a monster. A Void Reaper unlike the others, towering at nearly 4 meters tall, its armor blacker than the void itself. Its helmet had no face, just a swirling vortex of energy, shifting and twisting, as if it was barely contained within its shell. Ethan felt it the moment it entered. This one was different. Stronger, smarter, older. The leader of the Void Reapers. And it spoke. "You are an abomination." Its voice was not one voice. It was a chorus of whispers, deep and hollow, echoing through the chamber. Ethan took a step forward. "Yeah. Well, I wasn't exactly planning on this happening." He raised his hands, feeling the power surging beneath his skin. "But I don't think you're here to chat, are you?" The Void Reaper leader tilted its head. "You do not understand what you are." Ethan smirked. "Funny. I was about to say the same thing to you." The Void Reaper raised its arm, and in an instant, time shattered. A battle beyond reality. The world ripped apart around Ethan as the Reaper's attack hit. It wasn't just an explosion or an energy blast. It was reality itself breaking. Ethan moved, not in space, but in time. One moment, he was standing in the chamber. The next, he was 10 seconds ahead, standing in a completely different spot. His mind struggled to keep up with what just happened. The Reaper had tried to erase him from existence, and he had just outrun time itself. His rescuer gasped, "Ethan, your body." Ethan looked down. His form was flickering, shifting between solid and light, as if he was no longer bound to one state of being. He clenched his fists. Not now. Later. Because the Reaper wasn't done. It lunged, moving impossibly fast. Too fast. Ethan didn't think. He met the attack head-on. The entire chamber exploded with light. The impact rippled through dimensions, sending shockwaves that shattered the floating monolith, sending pieces of ancient technology flying in all directions. Ethan countered, his hands glowing with celestial fire, striking back with a force that bent space itself. The battle was no longer happening in one reality. They were fighting across many. Through time, through space, through the very fabric of existence. Ethan saw glimpses of worlds that never were, timelines that had never existed. He saw himself, in thousands of forms, as a king, as a warrior, as a ghost, as a god. And through it all he fought. He struck. The Reaper blocked. The Reaper lashed out. Ethan dodged through time. They moved too fast for the universe to keep up. And then, Ethan saw the opening. He stepped through time itself, appearing inside the Reaper's defenses, just for a fraction of a second. And that was all he needed. One hit. He slammed his fist into the Reaper's core. Reality fractured. The Void Reaper screamed, not in pain, but in utter defeat. Its form ripped apart, breaking into shards of void, spiraling into the nothingness between worlds. And just like that, it was gone. The cost of power. Ethan fell to his knees, his body burning. His skin was still flickering between human and something else, something not meant to exist in this world. His rescuer rushed forward. Ethan. He gasped for air, gripping his chest as his mind tried to anchor itself back into reality. His rescuer knelt beside him. "You can't keep this up. The essence inside you. If you don't stabilize it, you're going to disappear." Ethan felt it. His existence was slipping, his mind expanding too far beyond what a human should be able to handle. He looked at his hands. They were fading. He had beaten the Reapers. But now he was losing himself. His rescuer grabbed his face, forcing him to focus. "Listen to me, Ethan. You're still here, but you have to hold on." Ethan clenched his jaw. "How?" The alien took a deep breath. "You need to make a choice." Ethan's vision blurred. "What choice?" The rescuer's eyes were full of sadness. "Stay as you are, or let go of the power." Ethan's heart pounded. If he let go, he'd return to being human, normal. But if he held on to this power, he'd become something else, something no longer human at all. The universe waited for his answer. The final decision. Ethan closed his eyes. For the first time since all of this started, he let himself feel the power, the responsibility, the weight of what he had become. Then he opened his eyes and made his choice. He reached deep within himself and let go. A brilliant flash of energy erupted from his body, blinding everything in sight. The station shook. The air cracked with raw force. And then, silence. When the light faded, Ethan collapsed. He was human again. His rescuer caught him, holding him as he gasped for breath. His skin was normal. His heartbeat steady. The essence was gone. And yet, he knew it had left something behind. A whisper in the back of his mind. A spark, waiting. But for now, he was Ethan Cross. Just Ethan Cross. And the war. It was over. Or so he thought. The choice of a god. Silence. The universe held its breath. Ethan lay motionless, his body still trembling from the battle, from the power he had wielded and then cast away. His fingers twitched as he felt the metal floor beneath him, cold and solid. He was human again. His rescuer knelt beside him, watching closely, their yellow eyes scanning his face for signs of life. "Ethan." Their voice was cautious, almost afraid. He opened his eyes, blinking up at them. "Yeah," he croaked. His throat felt raw, like he had screamed across multiple lifetimes. "I think I'm still me." The alien exhaled sharply, relief washing over their face. "You actually did it." Ethan let out a weak chuckle. "Yeah, well, not sure if it was the best idea, but it's done." The chamber around them was in ruins. The once floating monolith now lay in shattered fragments, its energy slowly fading. The ancient carvings along the walls had stopped glowing, their whispers finally silent. The air was heavy, thick with the aftershock of something that should never have existed. And the Void Reapers, gone. Erased, or perhaps never meant to be. For a moment, Ethan just lay there, breathing, feeling human again. Then the questions began to creep in. What now? The weight of a decision. Ethan sat up slowly, groaning as his muscles protested. His body was exhausted, like he had just fought an entire war inside himself. His rescuer helped him to his feet. "You shouldn't even be standing right now," they muttered. Ethan smirked. "Yeah, well, I've had a long couple of days." The alien's expression darkened. "Ethan, do you realize what you just did?" He met their gaze, something in their tone making his stomach twist. "I gave up the power," he said, shrugging. "Now I'm back to normal." They shook their head. "No, you're not." Ethan frowned. "What do you mean?" The alien hesitated, then pointed at his chest. "Look at yourself." He glanced down, and his breath caught in his throat. A faint symbol was glowing just beneath his skin, over his heart. It pulsed with the faintest energy, a reminder of what he had once been. Not gone. Just dormant. Ethan swallowed hard. "So I'm not exactly normal anymore, am I?" The alien sighed. "The essence never truly disappears. It's part of you now. Even if you shut it away, it's still there, waiting." Ethan flexed his fingers, watching the symbol's glow fade slightly, as if responding to his thoughts. "So if I ever lose control again," his voice trailed off. The alien nodded. "You may not get a second chance to turn back." Ethan exhaled. "Great. Love that for me." What was left behind? The chamber's energy continued to fade, and with it, the station itself. The old machinery groaned, and distant alarms blared, warning of structural instability. "We need to get out of here," the alien said, scanning the collapsing walls. "This place won't hold for long." Ethan nodded, still feeling the weight of everything that had happened. As they moved through the ruins, he noticed something strange. The station wasn't just breaking apart. It was rewriting itself. The old walls were shifting, repairing. The ruined pathways were closing, becoming whole again. It was as if the station had been waiting for something. Ethan frowned. Is it just me, or is this place fixing itself? His rescuer looked around, then cursed under their breath. No, it's not fixing. It's sealing itself away. Ethan stiffened. Sealing. They nodded. The core was never supposed to be found again. Now that it's done its purpose, it's making sure no one can ever reach it. Ethan's heart pounded. We need to move. Now. They ran, dodging collapsing debris and shifting pathways. Ethan could feel the station pushing them toward an exit, guiding them, almost ushering them out. And then, as they passed through the final doorway, the chamber behind them vanished. Not collapsed, not destroyed. Gone, as if it had never existed. Ethan stood there, staring at the empty corridor, where an entire ancient secret had just been wiped away. His rescuer placed a hand on his shoulder. It's over. Ethan wasn't sure if that was true. The final goodbye. They reached the docks, where Ethan's small, beaten ship still sat waiting. The station itself felt different now, as if something had changed in its very fabric. Or maybe he was the one who had changed. Ethan turned to his rescuer. So what now? The alien studied him for a long moment. Then they smirked. You tell me, human. You're the one who just defied an ancient order and rewrote history. Ethan chuckled. Right. No pressure. They extended a hand. We won't meet again, not like this. But I have a feeling you're not done making trouble for the universe. Ethan took their hand and shook it firmly. I guess we'll see. Then, with one final nod, they turned and walked away, disappearing into the shadows of the station. Ethan sighed, rubbing his temples. Well, guess it's time to go. He boarded his ship, ran a systems check, and prepared for launch. As the engines roared to life, he took one last glance at the space station, the place where everything had changed. Then, with a deep breath, he set a course for the stars. But just before he jumped to light speed, a single whisper echoed in the back of his mind. We are not finished yet. Ethan's fingers tightened around the ship's controls. His journey wasn't over. It was just beginning.